How you doing this morning? How you doing this morning, folks? It's Brody Alfonso here on the morning show. Hope you are having a good one here. It's Thursday, right? It's Thursday. It's the first of the month. Wake up, wake up, wake up, because it's the first of the month. That's right. It's Thursday, February 1st, the smallest month of the year, but that's okay. January's in the bag, and it's been a pretty decent January. A little bit hectic at times, but not too bad. I can't complain. A little bit warmer this year than normal. Wherever you are, thanks for joining me this morning. It's Brody here at the Stock Desk. We're talking Magic the Gathering news and Hasbro news. There is some market news as it pertains to Hasbro. Yes, in fact, we've got some interesting news articles for you folks today. I'm very happy to bring you some sad news, I guess. I don't know. Maybe perhaps it's just rumor mill at this point in time, but we're going to have to wait and see how it all shakes out. So grab yourself a beverage this morning, a hot cup of coffee. Sit down, relax, and enjoy the show. Good morning, Tommy Siddons. A little bone thugs, right? Why did the cowboy have his boots on? So he didn't stub his toe when he kicked the bucket, right? It's good to see you here this morning. It's Tommy Siddons in the house, sitting in on the channel here this morning. Nice to see you. All right, why are cowboy hats curled on the side? So you can fit 3 in a pickup. That's pretty much the gist of it. Have you heard this rumor? Well, I don't know if it's a rumor. It's been published a little bit already, and I'm supposing, Tommy, you're going to hear more about this out in the world. You're going to hear about this Hasbro potentially entertaining the sale of D&D to Tencent. Now, we're going to have to do a little bit of research on Tencent, but if you haven't heard this already, it was some news that dropped on the Twitter feeds yesterday. We're going to talk about it here on the morning and what that means to folks who play Magic. Sadly enough, if you want my opinion, I'll tell you the reasons why Hasbro is entertaining to sell the D&D intellectual property, and Magic the Gathering players aren't going to do a thing about it. Nothing. Not an absolute thing about it. Yes, sure, there'll be some crying and some whining and some sniveling and some moaning and a lot of groaning and curmudgeoning on the internet. I'm sure people will be posting memes. There's going to be some political outrage on the internet today, I'm sure. Because this story dropped just yesterday, about 18 to 20 hours ago, that Hasbro was entertaining the sale of D&D to a company named Tencent. We're going to read about it here this morning and discuss and get your thoughts on it. But I have to firmly think that there's going to be a lot of griping about it. We're probably going to hear about it, but Magic the Gathering players aren't going to do a darn thing. No, they're not. What's cracking in? Nice to see you here, the Cracking in Games here on the show. Do you warm up a frozen cowboy? Ye thaw. That's right. Got my cup here this morning. Got a little bit of oolong tea. That's what we're having for breakfast this morning. Doing to switch it up here this morning. It's Thursday, and I love Thursdays. Thursdays is an exciting day for me. I enjoy doing the show on Thursday simply because we get to discuss the movers and the shakers, and it's Legacy Day. So I like it when we get to take a look at some legacy cards. Kind of my favorite thing. Legacy cards. Why not? All right, well, this morning we're going to warm up just a little bit. And if those of you who are tuning in, Gaming Bob, have you heard about this? Hasbro entertaining the sale of D&D intellectual property, and why? Yes, Hasbro is entertaining the sale of Dungeons and Dragons, and the Gathering players and supporters and content creators won't do a thing about it. They're not going to do it. Nope, not a doggone thing. There's some griping and moaning. So plenty of griping and striping and moaning this morning here on the morning show. We're going to entertain you folks. Thanks for tuning in here on the show. We're going to talk about it. But first, I want to show you some AI generated magic cards. And in fact, I've got a couple of magic cards that aren't AI generated. These are graphic game designer generated. This is online person. These are some of these. I got one here that's very interesting. Okay. Because we've been talking about the reserve list for the last couple of days, and the potential of Wizards of the Coast making even better cards than what's on the reserve list. We talked about reprints. It's Thursday. We're going to talk about legacy. There's plenty to talk about. So let's take a look at this one. I know you're going to like this. This one's for you, Gaming Bob. I know you're going to like this one here. How about this card right here? All right. Ancestral growth. Yep. It's going to be China's property now, right? D&D. Yes. And as I was talking to Dual Brain yesterday, and with the sale of D&D to 10 cents, that could mean that all this intellectual property is going to end up in the hands of China pretty soon, right? It could be. What are we going to do when magic gets produced in another country, right? Ancestral growth. I love this card, right? So like the context here, I thought it was very, very easy. This fella made this card, Sirkovitz. I'm sick and tired of some things. We have 19th reprint of Lightning Helix and MKM. 7 different arts, but WotC did nothing to make the rest of the cards in this cycle. So we've got Ancestral Growth. How about this? This looks hilarious, eh? I love this card, right? So this is a combination. Let's see here. We got target creatures. It's a blue and a green. I know, right? Isn't this a great card? It's a blue and a green. It's an instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, and then target player draws 3 cards. So it's like the ancestral regrowth or ancestral recall mixed with the giant growth. It could be called ancestral regrowth. Why not? I think this is a great looking card. This one's pretty funny, eh? All right, all right. So what do we got here? We got a mix up between the ancestral recall and the giant growth. Now this isn't AI generated. This is something somebody put together, and I want to see if they went ahead. So we're gonna pass this. We're gonna give it an okay because this card is awesome. It's like the better Power 9, right? This is like the melding of the Power 9. I'm just gonna take a look here and see what else this fella has put out. Okay, so we got ancestral growth. For now, that's it. Just the ancestral growth. Maybe there's some more coming, but we'll keep our eye out for it. I like it. All right, let's head on over to Robo Rosewater and take a look. Take a look at some AI generated magic cards. Like I say, this one isn't AI generated. This is person generated. And for those of you joining us here this morning, if you haven't been to the show already, here's how it works. We're gonna take a look at some cards that are made up with the online console, and then we're gonna rate them. We're gonna see how good they are. This is a Simic. What a Simic card, right? If the card's playable anyway whatsoever, you're gonna hear this sound. The sound of the dinger, my man. And if it's no good, if it's broken or busted, if it doesn't work, if it's got non-functional text on it, you'll hear this sound. The sound of the buzzing, cousin. All right, the cephalid cringed. This card will make you cringe. What a Simic card. This card is Simic. Little tree folk for you folk here this morning. What are you up to today? Why does the boss always park in the closest parking spot? Why is that? Why does the boss always get the closest parking spot to the door, right? Well, probably one of the same reasons they don't want to walk any farther than necessary. And if your boss is making people wear suits to the office, it's probably trying to make things look more successful. Cephalid cringe. Does this make you cringe? This 3/3 for 1 green and 4? Got menace and it's the tree folk. When the cringe becomes tapped, you may gain control of target creature with flying and each player until end of turn. Wow, this thing's OP. There's nothing we can say about this. Look at this. OP. All right. Uh, I don't know how you're going to gain control of each player until end of turn. Does that mean you get to look at their hand, take all their... This is brutal, right? Yeah. Especially with a card like Mindslaver out. We know that that's a thing in the Emrakul, the Promised End. I think that's the one that lets you take control of target player for a turn. So this card does just that for 1 green and 4. I mean, you may... you make their choices for them, right? Yes, you do. You make their choices. You get to cast their spells. You get to target their things. You get to tap their lands. I mean, this doesn't seem too bad. Maybe you just don't block, right? Maybe you swing waywardly into some attacking creatures. This card, I'm gonna say it's actually a card. It works, okay? It's just super overpowerful. What do we got here? The Valley Sengrin. Sengirin? It's a Leviathan. I haven't seen a black Leviathan ever before. This is the first one of its kind. It's got to be 6/5, 2 black and 3 for the creature Leviathan, flying indestructible. Must be blocked if able. You have to block this thing. You can't say no to it. This is the can't say no. You just can't turn this Leviathan down. You gotta come out and give it a hug. You'd be like, hey, bring it in, Leviathan. No, you gotta swing with this. Must be blocked if able. Whenever Valley Sangrin deals combat damage to a player, flip a coin. And if you win the flip, remove a +1/+1 counter from Valley Sangrin. If you do, create a 5/5 red-green dragon creature token with flying. It's OP. This thing's OP. I couldn't agree with you more there, Gaming Bob. Check this out. It has to have a counter on it to do it. So I mean, I guess the first part of the game is you're going to have to put a counter on this sucker to get there. And then if you flip a coin on combat damage, you get to remove a counter. So it doesn't enter with any counters. See, that's the catch here, right? It doesn't come into play with any counters. You got to find a way to put a counter on it. It's OP, but is this sucker functional? Does it function? Does it function at your junction, Gaming Bob? I think it does. This sucker will function just fine. A 6/5 for flying, indestructible. That's what you get for 5 mana these days. No, Carnage Tyrant, you take the back of the bus. Get out of here. This thing does all that it can. Okay, we're gonna give it the OP rating, courtesy of Gaming Bob. All right, 58.4% of people said this thing is overpowered. 3.6% women also agreed. And this champion's call to odds is up on the block next. I do. It does. We do. It do. What we got here? I am's dead. Hi, how are you? I'm okay. We got somebody tuning in on Twitch, I hope. We don't get a lot of people viewing us on Twitch here this morning when we discuss magic cards, card prices. We check in AI-generated cards and looking at some discussion here this morning. We're just dandy. It's a Thursday edition of the morning show with Brody. We're talking stocks, we're talking shop, we're talking magic cards and games here this morning, having a little bit of fun. We got some news articles for you folks. What up? Say hello to the folks in the Twitch. Thank you. What up? Nice to see you. Appreciate you for tuning in. Let's look at this card together. It's a sorcery, and then it's got instant creature on the other hand. I'm going to have to zoom in on this one. Even what is going on at the bottom of this card here? Okay. It's almost like I want a card named Pantalones, but it's got some serious good art on it. We got some doggies. Yes, some doggos. the can peons, and then the call to odds. Okay, so on this side of the card, we got sorcery for 1 green. Investable, collectible. Nice to see you. How you doing? We're talking stocks and we're talking shop here. And we got some amazing news from Hasbro here this morning. We're going to share it with you folks today. But let's take a look at some of these AI cards. Regenerate all permanents, target opponent controls. Untap another target artifact in opponent controls. And then what's this down at the bottom? Instant. I guess you can cast this at instant speed for a Jeskai and 2, a white, a red, a blue, and 2. Or you can cast it at sorcery speed for a green. All right. So the alternate casting costs. I actually kind of like this. It seems neat. What do you think, Gaming Bob? This seems okay, right? If you had an alternate casting cost, you want to cast it at sorcery speed, it costs you a green. But if you want to pay 5, you can cast it at instant. Doesn't seem too bad, actually. I kind of like that. Give you the option, right? Cheaper rebate to play during your main phase or at slow speed. You want to whip this out real fast, real quick, you got to pay 5 for it. And then it's a split card. So on the other half of it, we got call to odds for this plain old instant creature. Okay, so we can flying. Tap it, instant creature. What is the power and toughness down here? It says, I don't know what this is. MTRI Mitraiba. Something went wrong here. Something went wrong with the power and toughness. But the art on the left side is more unsettling the more you look at it. What? Okay. Oh yeah. Well, we got some dogs and some ghouly faces. It is kind of unsettling. We got to fail this. Let's get it out of here. I don't even want to read it because it says tap. It's got an instant creature for each of them. Choose a Hund. Choose a Hund. For each of them, choose a Hund. If 2 is vehicle, call to odds gets 1/1 and you gain a life. Get it out of here. This thing's no good. It's non-functional. It's ne fonctionne pas. You can't deal with this morning, but we can deal with this. We saw this dance of protection target cards. This was yesterday. It's a force of will, right? Is that it? And what is bow? I have no idea, Gaming Bob. I don't know. Good morning, folks. Thanks for joining everybody tuning in on Twitch and around the world. I want to thank you tuning in this morning on the Magic Show. I've got some interesting news for you today as it pertains to Hasbro. Now, Hasbro, the company that owns Wizards of the Coast, also owns Dungeons and Dragons. And if you haven't heard, they're already entertaining the sale of Dungeons and Dragons intellectual property and game to a company called Tencent. You're going to hear about this, but you've heard about it here first on the morning show. You're going to hear discussion on this and talk on the internet, and I want to see if there's some more facts come out. Now, at this point, it could be rumors, but what do you think about that? I think Magic the Gathering content creators aren't going to do a thing about it. Here's why. Because as long as content creators can keep making a living off of the Magic the Gathering brand and fan base and getting more and more attention and coverage, they're not going to upset the apple cart. Now we're talking about the people who the big guys, the people who like are content creators full time. Like there's a few places like the substitute teacher, like that guy. He's not gonna do a darn thing about it. Some of the bigger ones aren't gonna do a darn thing about it. We heard this like the last time, and we talked about the solidarity video where the 1,000 people got laid off at Hasbro. There was a lot of griping and whining, and there's some memes on the internet, but that's all they're going to do. I don't understand how people are going to keep giving this company all their hard earned money, love, and attention when they clearly don't like you, right? I mean, why would they? So let's take a look at an article here this morning. That's my opinion on it. I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment in the comments section. I want to hear what you folks have to say. Let's discuss it, and let's take a look at this news article here today and see what it has to say. All right? Does this matter to you? Well, it is kind of sad, and people better act quickly or actually do something about it. There can't just be a bunch of tough talk on the internet. There actually has to be some action, some solidarity, folks, or all these great games are going to end up elsewhere. Now, if you ask me, do you know what it takes to make a great product or an invention or a business successful in the world, first of all, you have to have a good product. You do. You have, and there's a reason why some things, the greatest things, some of the best things were American made. And there's some great things. And I'll give you an example. Record was a company. Now, I'm not talking about Record players, but Record was an English company who used to make wares and goods like vices, metal, and castings, and things made out of very, very tough materials. And then they built a name for themselves over several hundred years, maybe not several hundred years, but several decades. And they had a good product. And one of their products would probably last you a lifetime. Do you notice how more and more the products that you buy don't last very long? Even the taste of the potato chips that I used to like and the crackers, they changed the recipe and they're not as good. They made them smaller. And it seems like these brands do whatever they can to build up a good name for themselves over decades of time. And if they have a good product, they might need patenting and copyright on it, but the American made products and the English made products and some of the European products have stood the test of time and are pretty much bulletproof. Now, what happens when that brand, and I'm using Record as an example because they used to make very fine vices, right? Yes, for squishing. Record used to make very fine vices, and then eventually they sold to Irwin. And then they moved the manufacturing offshore where the quality control went down the toilet. Now these things are sold for about the same price or maybe even more, but the quality isn't there. They don't last and they fall apart. So it takes a lot to make a product that lasts a lifetime, stands the test of time. It takes a long time to build a brand and build something up over decades that people know, trust, and love. And then what ends and then you have to compete with patenting, right? So there's a reason that a lot of the American made products like to be produced locally in the United States, or and more that's changing. Products are getting produced in other countries. And if you've felt my pain when something that you used to buy that used to be very good, when they change the manufacturing location, a couple of things happen. Quality control goes down, the product gets worse, it doesn't seem to last as long as it could, and it breaks and they wear out. And then what happens is copycats, right? There are some places where you just don't send stuff to get made because the patent goes out the window. They just don't care. So let's take a look. Hasbro seeking to sell the intellectual property of D&D and has had preliminary contact with Tencent. Now, I don't know Tencent and what they make, but I should. I'm gonna have to do a little research on it and see exactly what they're. I think there's another gaming company, right? Chris Cox and Cynthia William can tell you everything is fine, but actions speak louder than words. Firing 20% of your employees and selling off entertainment division and shopping off D&D is bad. Is it really, right? And here's why Magic the Gathering content creators and folks who are out on the internet making, like, the people on the bandwagon that are the traveling roadshow spokespeople going to events and pumping this, the ambassadors, right? The ambassadors of Magic, the people who make Magic the Gathering content, so long as they're getting so long as they're getting their feed from the fan base, they're not going to do a thing about it. Isn't that major company that people hate more? Isn't that a major company that people hate more than Hasbro? Back when cars were metal instead of plastic? Yeah. And Huckleberry says, I said back during the second set with the collector boosters, they plan on running the ship into an iceberg and then laugh their ass off when the ship skip off to the bank to purchase their fourth vacation home. I wonder if they retain some rights for MTG sets when they sell D&D. So one thing, the comments that I heard about this, about the sale of D&D, is that I guess there's a lot to do with, and I'm not a D&D guy, but there's a list and there's a lot of everything that goes into D&D is not copyrightable. Apparently, some of the discussion, some people are saying that the only thing that they have to sell with this is the name, because a lot of the D&D, like the books and the gameplay, is not copyrightable. All right, Speed Daily exclusive learned that American toy company Hasbro is seeking to sell its well-known IP Dungeons and Dragons, referred to below, and Tencent is one of the potential buyers. At present, the negotiations are still in the early stages, and both parties have not yet reached an agreement on the details of the transaction. According to informed sources, the financial crisis faced by Hasbro is the main reason for considering the sale of D&D. The financial crisis faced by Hasbro is the main reason for considering the sale of D&D, and Tencent Investments. Lorien Studios is acting as an intermediary for this transaction. Latin Studios' game of Baldur's Gate 3 won the TGA Game of the Year awards in 2023 and is considered one of the most successful adaptations of D&D. As a result, it was seen as a potential target for a Hasbro buyer for Hasbro. However, due to insufficient funds, NSF, Lorien Studios ultimately introduced this deal to shareholder Tencent. Morning, Dual Brain. Nice to see you. This is nuts, right? There's going to be some discussion about this. Yes, I was discussing this actually. First person I got a hold of yesterday when I saw this was Ed the Dual Brain. I was like, Ed, what's your take on this? Right? And he had a good take. I'm going to say, why don't they just leave the golden goose alone? Let it lay the eggs instead of trying to figure out why, or like how much you can get for the goose or the pieces of the goose, right? Let the golden goose lay its eggs, let it do its thing, take some time. But when you're like you're getting offered money for a wing, a neck, a beak, and like a couple of chicken backs, I mean, cutting up the golden goose seems pretty good. Morning, Benson. How are you doing? Of course, their first thought is to sell an iconic brand. Exactly. So it takes decades to build a company and a brand that people know, and it takes a minute just to sell it to somewhere that it's going to be mass produced. The quality control will change, I'm sure. But what does this mean to you folks? And why Magic the Gathering players are not going to do a darn thing about it? There's still going to be people out there championing the new sets, the new releases, promoting the new releases of Wizards of the Coast, all in all, like lemmings, all in all, walking foot footstep to after footstep to their own demise. Hasbro was founded in 1923 and has a history of over 100 years. In 1935, the company gradually became the world-class toy company with its Monopoly series games. It owns well-known IP such as Transformers, Dungeons and Dragons, Monopoly, and My Little Pony, and this century-old enterprise is currently facing a huge crisis due to losses. Its stock price has dropped from a high of $108 in 2019 to $51 closing on January 26th. According to the financial report, as of the third quarter of 2023, Hasbro has been experiencing consecutive losses for 4 quarters due to its main business in toy sales. And the accumulated loss from quarter 2022 and 2023 exceeds $500 million. We're losing money. $500 million in 2023. There was even a negative free cash flow situation, according to Forbes' report. In a response to the crisis, the company underwent significant layoffs last year with a total reduction in over 1,900 employees, accounting for more than 20%. So it wasn't 1,000 employees when we were talking about the Hasbro Hunger Games. It was 1,900. I play these D&D golden eggs sometimes on my computer just for fun. Announcing selling of D&D doesn't help. Morning, DJ Long. How you doing? Nice to see you here. No need to abuse the geese. All right, although the company as a whole is in a loss situation, its D&D related intellectual property is a high quality asset that's achieved considerable success in video game adaptations. Last year, the release of Baldur's Gate 3 by Lorien Studios was both critically acclaimed and commercially successful. It not only won 6 IGA awards, including Game of the Year, but also generated revenue of $657 million, surpassing the Harry Potter IP adaptation genre Hogwarts Legacy, making the most profitable PC exclusive game of the year. The success of Baldur's Gate 3, everything seems to hinge on Baldur's Gate, right? It's like that one You ever work for that guy who like everything he touches turns to poo poo? Like he can't like plan his way out of a paper bag, and everything that the fella does, or this person does, just just is a complete mismanaged disaster. But then like they'll do one job or they'll do one task and like it'll go off successfully, and then they'll just like hinge everything on that one successful event. And then they'll remind everybody, like just repeating it over. Remember how I was so successful? Remember how I sold that car to the Olsen twins or whatever whatever that one time that I actually did my job and it turned out right. And then you just like repeat that over and over again. I predict reprinting the reserve list is not too far off, maybe in the next 24 months. Richie Dub, maybe Elon Musk would buy it. Actually, that's a funny thing you should say that, Benson, because people I think I saw that on Twitter. All right, the success of Baldur's Gate 3 is also reflected in the financial data of Hasbro. The financial report shows that the third quarter of 2023, driven by Baldur's Gate 3 and another Monopoly IP game called Monopoly Go, Hasbro Electronic Gaming and Licensing related business achieved a contrary year-to-year growth of 40%, 423 million de piastres. Outside of the electronic games, D&D is also one of the most popular tabletop games in Europe and America. It has appeared multiple times as American TV shows such as The Big Bang Theory and Stranger Things. A far large fan base has formed around its related culture, is masking it a top tier IP, making it a top tier IP fan base and people who love this game. All right. See also Tencent response to the collective server crash in popular games in the early morning. All right. I don't see that, Bob. They need to retain some goodwill, and I will retain some goodwill. Goodwill is for sale, right? Goodwill is on the table. That's what I say here. All right. A Tencent IEG Interactive Entertainment Group insider revealed that Tencent, represented by its overseas business department, IEG Global, is in negotiations with the aim of acquiring a series of rights, including the adaptation rights of the electronic games such as D&D. According to the aforementioned IEA Games, Tencent currently holds the game and adaptation rights for many top tier IPs. However, due to the licensing model, the most not being a one time buyout, Tencent does not only need to bear high copyright fees and long term revenue sharing, but also frequently faces restrictions from its partners in terms of development and operation. Previously, the mobile game adaptation of NIER, I'm not sure what that is, developed by Tencent Timmy Studios, was unable to be launched even until the project was canceled. Duel, Bob, Benson, we're all here perpetrating Magic the Gathering discussion here on the morning show. We're talking about the company who owns Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, and the selling off of one of their major brands to Tencent, that is Dungeons and Dragons. If this acquisition is successful, it will enable Tencent to gain dominion control over the IP of Dungeons and Dragons, which will largely avoid the aforementioned issues. I don't see reprints maybe another year, another round of Lost Legends of sorts. They probably have abundance of old sets in storage like they did with Legends. D&D is about to be worth 10 cents. All right, yeah. So why aren't Magic the Gathering players going to do anything about this? Do you think there's going to be a boycott? It's unlikely. I think and this is what I was just alluding to earlier in the show. Folks who are mainstream Magic the Gathering content creators who call themselves independent, this is a good time to evaluate and see exactly where the loyalties lie. Because as so long as some people continue to make profit and popularity off the Magic the Gathering fan base, they need to cling to the Magic the Gathering brand because that's all they have. That is what they do, and that is like their only horse, so to speak. So if the company goes in a direction that people don't agree with and players perhaps get a little bit upset by selling off their brands overseas, It's going to be interesting to see if there's anything more than tough talk and words on Twitter and in the internet world. I can't see a boycott coming, but why continue to support a company that hates you and is willing to sell the brand out from underneath you and its player base while still championing to the fan base of Magic the Gathering? So look, just don't look over here while this is happening over here. That's sort of like, let's just pretend the hand don't magic, right? That's why Magic players aren't going to do a thing about it. Nope, nothing. D&D fans sort of separate from Magic the Gathering fans. Siloed, right? Working on a thumbnail. Most of what's interesting is Bandai picking up MetaZoo and D&D sell-off, and not too much in Magic the Gathering except for new style of peeps not pre-ordering. I think Richie Dubs is currently claiming me as his Bob. You may have to check in with him. Let's check on Richie Dubs here this morning. Nice to see you, Richie. My Bob. Richie has competition. Can we see the reserve list reprints in a way of M30? Non-tournament legal cards or numbered serialized cards? Interesting. So you probably heard about it already. There's a little bit of discussion going on in the world of Magic the Gathering when it comes to Hasbro and Tencent. Oh, a little sneeze this morning makes me feel all right. What do you call a happy cowboy? That is a jolly rancher. So yes, names and brands that take decades to build. Do you ever notice that with some of your favorite foods? I do. There was a cracker that they used to make in the day. It was called Stone Wheat Thins, and I thought they were delicious. They were everything a cracker should be. The right amount of crispiness, the right amount of flavor, the proper seasoning, the shape, even a little slit down the center where you could snap that thing into two perfectly even halves of a cracker, load it with cheese or whatever you wish, make a little cracker sandwich. They went well in soup. They didn't get soggy too fast. They stayed crunchy, crispy. One of my favorite crackers of all times used to be. And then one day I remember I was having a discussion with some of the family. I said, does it appear to me that they've changed the recipe on these? Because the crackers got sort of rounder and they weren't as crispy and they got soggy. And when you tried to snap them in two with a little line down the center, they just kind of split off to the side and you ended up with fragments of crackers. The spice was different, the texture was different, the crunchiness was altogether different, but the box and the packaging had the same name on it that we always knew. But I know they changed the recipe. And that happens with great brands like Jolly Rancher, Stone Wheat Thins, Irwin Record. It takes decades to build a company up to something that is got a reputable brand, and it takes just an instant to sell it. And what ends up happening when that happens is that, well, perhaps what happened when Wizards of the Coast was sold to Hasbro, changes happen. Now, you always hope that when a new company takes over, or you ever worked at a place where they get bought out by another company, and people say, well, no, it's for the better. It's going to be good. It's a change for the better. It's going to be great. In fact, it's going to have all these things they're going to bring to the company. Well, a lot of times what happens is quality goes down, and all they really want is the name. They want the name, and it's debatable who owns it. You know, great American products, Canadian product. Did you know the cheesy is a Canadian invention? The cheesy, yes, it is. Hawkins Cheesy, made and invented in Canada. Yes, in other countries they have cheese puffs and they have Cheetos and they have cheese pleasers and they have all these other things. But the cheesy is a Canadian made product. The cheesy, Hawkins Cheesy, the original. Now, I love those things. And if it wasn't for that guy who, that hard working man, for the working man inventing those cheesies, putting his name on it, Hawkins Cheesies and the little Canadian maple leaf, we wouldn't have those. And people love those things. People love that cheesy. It's delicious, and they're crunchier than any other cheesy. Now, the brand, the name, it means something. It really does. It's trusted. It's something that you expect a certain type of flavor from that cheesy when you pop it in your mouth. You see the brand Hawkins cheesy, or you see the name Dungeons and Dragons, or you see the name Magic the Gathering. You expect a certain level of quality, a certain je ne sais quoi about the taste, the flavor of that cheesy. But should that, and that would be a sad day if they ever sold the cheesy brand to another company and moved production elsewhere, moved the design. We can change a couple of things in the ingredients just to save a couple of bucks. We can use a little less of this and add a little more of that. And the next thing you know, the flavor, just like stone wheat thins, becomes a thing of the past. So that's what we're talking about here. And what can people do? Well, there's not a lot you can do. But what you can do is you can discuss. It's Thursday. Oh, yeah. And it's time. That's right. Hear that? That's right. I hear it too. It's time to move. And it's time to shake in your seat. Here with me on the morning show, it's Brody Alfonso, and I want to thank each and every one of you amazing fans, beautiful people, tuning in on the show this morning. It's Thursday. Woo, woo. Let's go. I love the Thursday edition because it's got my favorite format. Oh, yes, it does. Get your shoes on, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, relax. Let's look at the card list together. Let's see what's moving and what's shaking here in the world of Magic the Gathering. Thursday, my favorite day. Let's go. Let's take a look at it here. I'm very excited. Maybe getting too excited. A little excited for nothing. Have an awesome day there, Mr. Cosmic Seed. Stay cosmic. Nice to see you here this morning, folks. Cosmic, it ain't over. No, we're just getting started. It's time to move and shake in here. See, what about the Mandela effect? Not remembering correctly is still real. What about the Berenstein Bears? That's what I'm saying. How can they change the package when the game can't beat? Mao Long's March D&D campaign? What? Cheesy from Canada? Wow, the cheesy. Hawkins cheesy. Look it up. It's the thing, Cosmic. Hawkins, the original cheesy. You might find cheese puff, cheese toast, cheese whatever. Cheese and toast. But as long as the cheesy remains, I will be happy. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at some of the movers and the shakers here this morning. I love this list because it's legacy and it's Thursday edition. I hope this list doesn't disappoint here today. I really do. But what are we looking at here on the list? We talked a card we talked about yesterday. I ain't heard the Brody positive lady there. Fixed it. You and your Brody positive packs. oh, the body positive packs. Was that a fat pack? All right, this is a card that was come up yesterday in discussion when we were talking about it, a little bit about the Arabian Nights. That's right. Why is history so dark? Because they have a lot of knights in history, right? This one here. The only land in the set, you like mountain, basic mountain. I mean, this is bling if you ever seen it. This is bling. It really is. It may not look like bling because it's just a basic mountain, but it is the bling of. This is the mountain of all mountains. I think MTG can't die. It's too prolific, but that doesn't mean that damage cannot be done to MTG. I see selling off D&D as a negative for MTG. I do too, but I know solidarity. Like, are we gonna do anything about it? The thick pack. This is the $244.99 mountain from Arabian Nights. And why is this card so expensive? Well, I heard a rumor about this, and I'll have to check this to make sure it's true. But maybe you guys can give it a sniff test. The story goes, as I heard it, is that it's the only basic land in the set. There was a spot missing on the print run on the print sheet, and they needed to put something in there. So, yes, the mountain got put on the print sheet. It's the only basic land. There are other lands in Arabian Nights, right? Yes, there are other lands. There are, Benson, but this is the only basic land in Arabian Nights. And I think it made its way onto the print sheet simply because there was a spot on the print sheet and they said, well, go ahead, put mountain on it. Now, there's 3 different art versions of the original mountain, and this is one of them. But this is the most rare basic mountain in the game. A lot of rare lands, but this thing is a common in the common slot. So you can still find these. People don't, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense to look at the decks using it. Let's see the decks using it. Yes, a lot of places are playing mountain. Of course they are. Modern Pioneer, Standard, Pauper, Commander, you can play a basic land. Of course you can. There's a lot of rare lands, but let's just remember that this one is printed in the common slot, and people like to use this to bling out their decks, right? Because you got this. The only way to really to really tell is by looking here for the little sword, right? Little sword here. Now, does this thing rise and fall? I think the Arabian Nights is like a pretty investable set or collectible set. Let's take a look at the chart on the mountain. Let's see the peaks and valleys here this morning. What do we got to discuss here? Let's discuss stock patterns for a minute here. Double bottom, right? We're talking about, you want to talk about fat packs, body positive packs, thick packs. Well, we can't talk about the double bottom unless we're talking about stocks and trading here, right? What's a double bottom? Some of these patterns. All right, the double bottom looks similar to the letter W, right? Did you know W is the only letter in the alphabet that has 3 syllables? It is. W. And did you know that a bear's mouth has 32 teeth? Yeah. And W is the only letter that best describes a double bottom, right? Double bottom looks similar to the letter W and indicates when the price has made 2 successful attempts at breaking through the support level and is a reverse chart pattern as it highlights a reversal trend. After successfully breaking through the support twice, the market price shift toward an uptrend. You got to find the double bottom, right? So let's see. Let's take a look at this pattern. You see a W that is a little different than the head and shoulders. A head and shoulders is like a triple top with a higher one in the middle. The double bottom looks like a W. So we're taking our chances here this morning to see if we can find ourselves a double bottom here on one of these stock charts. You think Stefan Guru has more than 100K of each? I got to find Reddit. I love to see. I'm not sure where the APAC lands fall in there, but as well, I picked up 6 sets of Lord of the Rings map land because Brody promotes lands as a safe investment. Not financial advice. This is my personal opinion. But it is, lands seem to be pretty safe because they're colorless. Seem to be a pretty safe place. You can always, like some people just enjoy selling the top. It's a fact. And then you have to sit there and cope, right? Copium. That's the drug of choice for for continued bad decisions. Got to learn from our mistakes. You got to learn from your mistakes. Try and do better. All right, let's have a look here. Let's see. This thing has had some action. There's no doubt about it. The basic mountain. What are we in and around Dominaria? Maybe this is when people first discovered that this is something that is rare and sought after. It was about $100. $100, $100. Now can I get 100, 150 now, please? For the basic mountain from Arabian Nights, gonna get 175. All right. About $100. Sat at $100 until Kaldheim, then took a poke up in price to the $400 mark in and around Strixhaven. I don't see a double bottom here. In fact, I see this thing kind of making a wedge pattern here, right? It's likely, and we talked about this just the other day, when you see these wedges, it's a falling wedge type of pattern. You might see a break to the upside here. Now, got to keep in mind, this thing can't be reprinted. It's only been printed once in Arabian Nights, so I think maybe as we see this here downward wedge pattern starting to form. Right here is where you're going to see like this is like buyers and sellers finally meeting in the middle to make a deal. And then this thing might take another poke up in price here sometime in the not too distant future. If we use Brody's chart, there's my pencil. What are we going to call this? Bro's Law? The Bro's Law, you look at the frequency here of this couple of patterns here, right? Like the time in between market moves, it almost like this distance here between one price spike and another. This is cyclical, right? And we talked about it a little bit ago. We're like in a bit of a bearish market. So it's going to take until about 2026 to get back to a 2025, 2026 to get back to a times of good times. So we're just coming in off the bottom of a rut here. And this chart kind of reflects it. 2021 and 2018 to 2021. I think it's safe to say that we can explain away some of the cards that were moving in and around 18, 19, 20 because there was a lot of free tendies and free money thrown around the world. Taxpayer money, right? Could you imagine if we one of these games was purchased by the Canadians, right? Let's sell D&D to Canada. Why not? We would do good things. We would do amazing things. Make D&D Canadian. All right. Kylan gave up his Twiddlers package for just one card I pulled. Kylan is our Florida man. Florida man. That's the guy that you see in the headlines. Florida man. Florida man eats a fork. Minus a mullet for reading about him on the news and punching an alligator and featuring in an episode of Cops, right? Let's not find our way on. Very shady, making cheap deals. Definitely a good guy and a shady character at the same time. Fork. All right, we're not done. You can't stick a fork in me. We ain't done just yet, right? Let's take a look at this card, the fork. Forget about it. This one's from Unlimited. Another reserve list hit. Now, there's debatable. This one's, are we talking about the revised? This is the Unlimited fork, right? So there's a few copies that didn't get, and that made it into revised and didn't get printed in 4th edition. And this is one of them. There's Copy Artifact, which is making a lot of waves right now because it's only a 2-mana reserve list card that copies the One Ring. There's Fork, and then there's the Dual Lands, and there's Wheel of Fortune. So those are some of the cards that, and Brain Geyser. Excuse me. So you got Brain Geyser, Fork, Wheel of Fortune, Copy Artifact, the Dual Lands. All cards that made it into the revised, but never made it into 4th edition. They were stopped, discontinued there. It's arguable which is the best card. The Fork has kind of been busted. This is a good, let's take a look at, we want to talk about the reserve list. Let's take a look at this card right now. This card's on the reserve list. It says any sorcery or instant spell is duplicated, is doubled. I love the wording on the original, right? Any sorcery or instant spell cast is doubled. Trait Fork in its exact copy is the target spell, except the fork remains red. Copy and original may have different targets. So let's take a look at a card called Reverberate. So if you're just looking to like copy some spells, there's other ways to do it. But let's just take a look at this card here. People say, okay, are we going to break the reserve list? This was like Wizards flirting around with the reserve list. You got 2 red, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose targets for the new copy. How is this not like functionally identical? It's pretty similar. The only difference is, and the way this gets around it, is that Fork says the copy remains red, and Reverberate straight up copies it and makes it like the same color of the spell with 2 mana. If you want to play spells that copy things and you don't want to play the Fork for $135, you can always Reverberate. I love Fork. I used to use it to counterspell Burn Doubler in my old school deck when I was little. Fork was the first card when I remember playing Magic in about 1995. I was pretty young. Fork was the first card that I went into. Okay, so here's one for you. Okay, here's a story for you. when Magic was starting out, there was a mechanic shop in town, and it was called, there was Ken's Automotive, and then inside Ken's Automotive had a counter, and then like some mechanics bays in the back, and then there was Ken's Cards and Collectibles inside the same building. So like inside a like a auto mechanics, and so inside this auto mechanic they had like a store with a glass table, and inside there they had the Magic cards. And we're talking about 1995. Okay, 1995, 1996, very early. And Fork was a card in revised that commanded a $20 bill, a green one, as we would say, a $20 to $25. So as a 13, 14-year-old in 1995, 96, $20 for a Magic card was insane. But this is a card that was worth $20. It really was. It was a $20 bill because it was considered one of the better, best, greatest cards in Magic. Now, we had a different perception of cards back in those days, but the point remains is I still remember this being commanding a $20 bill in the revised set. Let's look at the chart on the fork. Let's stick a fork in this. Double bottom. We're looking for a W, right? I don't see it. I don't see the W for the win, right? Look at a lot of this up and down, though. May your ups and downs be only on the stock show. This is what we call volatility. The faster something moves up and down, the ability of something to move up and down so quickly kind of gives you an idea of how few copies of this it takes to move the market. Look at the gaps in here. Oh, gaposis, right? Between here and here. There's definitely some gaps in the chart, right? So volatility is another term that's used in the stock world. It means, well, we could look it up, but to just give you the short answer, the rundown on volatility. Volatility is a stock or an investment or something's ability to change in price dramatically at a short period of time. It can typically be done when supply is low, and if somebody buys a large amount of said item, that the price goes up immediately. It's like going to the hardware store trying to buy plexiglass in the middle of a craze for plexiglass. It's like the toilet paper conundrum. There's like none left in the stores, right? So the price goes up. When somebody owns or there's few of something to go around, then the volatility and traders love this, especially people in the stock world. They love this because volatility gives you those swings, right? Now, I'm not talking about swingers, key parties, or anything like that. We're talking about volatility. Now, you could just imagine traders love stuff like this. Now, we're talking about stocks and crypto and people trading shares on the TSX or the FTX or the S&P. Traders love this because these large swings means you could buy something up here or buy something down here, sell it when it moves up, buy it back when it moves down, sell it when it moves up. It's kind of like real estate. Like every time the house sells, the buyer and seller doesn't make a lot of money, but the real estate agent or the broker makes money every time it's sold. Buy low, sell high.
Buy low, sell high, that's my motto. I may just quit my job at the power plant and become a full-time stock market guy.
All right, Homer. One day I'll quit my job at the power plant and become a full-time stock desk trading guy. So Fork, quite an interesting card. Where are we playing it? We're playing it in. There was another really cool card that I liked was Narset's Reversal. What a great card that is. I mean, for 2 blue, Narset's Reversal, a pretty good card. Volcanic Island. The volcanic. All right, let's talk about this card here. We haven't talked about it this year yet, but if those of you are wondering, this was from the revised block. This is another interesting card. It's got a little bit of a history to it, much like the Arabian Nights Mountain that we saw before. This one was left off the print sheet in Alpha. It didn't make it on the print sheet, so it is in fact the rarest of the dual lands. And people say Underground Sea is the best one. because it makes black and blue mana. You really want that black and blue mana combination. But as far as price goes, the volcanic island tends to outprice a lot of the underground sea at times. So I made a roasted garlic. I used to make it. I used it to make compound butter. It was excellent. I used it with lobster, and I used it with. It was so good. Ah, I could use a little lobster. Florida man. Imagine today's headlines. Florida man buys Magic the Gathering trading cards, finds alpha rare of volcanic island. Okay, so volcanic island, a card that was left off the print sheet in alpha, and this is why a card like this always sees a high price and tends to outprice the Underground Sea. Underground Sea, based on color combination and desirability and playability, the Volcanic Island is rare. It also makes blue mana, so any of the dual lands that make blue mana tend to be really good. It's really good to cook with. Let's check this out. What's cooking on the morning show? Well, let's look at some of the spacing and the frequency in between price moves here on the Underground Sea. So we got like, what is this, a 2-year bit? So it seems like every 2 years, this thing takes a poke up in price, right? This is every one of these bars is a 2-year period. And now we're here, and this is getting a bit long in the tooth. It's starting to get a little farther away. So now we have this downward wedge pattern sort of forming each one of these troughs. What we like to see is like this nice soft bottom right here. And a lot of folks would say the prices for reserve list cards right now couldn't be better because we're in sort of one of these bottoms, which occurred here and here and here. The thing is with these dual lands, they're not going to just drop to zero, and you're not going to catch them on. They're not as volatile as we were talking about cards like the fork. Not a lot of swings in price where it goes up and then down, up and then down. These are like more steady. They just sort of drift sideways from west to east, and then they kind of settle in at a nice soft bottom, but they never really dip down and take a spike down like a crash. They tend to go up in trends, and now we're looking at the Mill Masters here. How you doing? Morning, Brody man. Morning, Mr. Broham, the master man of the Mill Man. Nice to see you. So yeah, we're talking about dual lands, the volcanic island, and the frequency and volatility of this card. How often does it move in price? It looks like a 2 to 3 year market cycle. How long until I have bad news? I mean, I'm thinking we're going to be 2025 before money is plentiful again. But I could be wrong. Mishra's Workshop. Here's a card that gets a lot of attention. Now, I completed a playset of this card like long time ago, and it was very expensive. This is another card that sort of got bought out in and around the Bazaar of Baghdad buyouts, and this is a really expensive card from the Antiquities block, and it's a rare. Why is this card so good and desired? Well, it's played in Legacy, it's played in Vintage, and it's the only other land that can kind of keep up to the Bazaar of Baghdad. And it's arguable which one is better because the Bazaar of Baghdad lets you play cards from the bin that have a madness cost. So every time you discard, I'm glad I have a workshop. Yes, I was hoping for something. Look, did you want to know what I kind of disappointment Urza's workshop was? Like, let's read this card. Let's read how good this is. Okay. Tap to add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool. What? So there's a land that taps for 3 colorless? You can only use it to cast artifact spells. And I have a question about this. The cards that say you don't lose unspent mana in your mana pool, like how does this, I want to know how this works with Trufix or Omnath. This is a judge question, can you float this mana and have it become black mana with Omnath to spend on different spells later, right? So you've got the Omnath. This is the question I have for you folks. Somebody let me know. What are we, Omnath, Locust of All? So how does this card work with Omnath? I really want to know. So this Omnath says if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black mana instead. Does this work with Omnath, where you can tap it, make 3 colorless, and then at steps and phases end, it just becomes black mana? And then is it a and then are you able to spend it like on whatever? That's the question I have about Workshop. And then like it also has there's another card like Crufix, right? He says, sort of same thing. If you would lose unspent mana, it becomes colorless. You just get to hang on to that mana. I like mana that doesn't empty from your pool. Never drain your whole pool, right? So that's my question. So this is another reason, like a card like Workshop could be just getting better and better because of mechanics that don't let you lose unspent mana. And if it becomes another type of mana, like is it possible to use it on something? I don't know, but I sure would like to know because it makes this card a whole lot better, especially in Commander. All right. Taps for 3 artifacts. The vintage decks are playing it. Let's look at the chart on this. This thing has been bought out a few times. It was up to 8,000 bucks here and around Kaldheim, and then it's just drifted. A double bottom. Do we see any W's? No W. All right, we're keeping our eyes out for the double bottom here this morning. Omnath will let you use it. Jewel shops, right? They call this the shops. Prison shops, aggro shops, other shops. Prison shops, aggro shops, other shops. Shop till you drop with this card here on the morning show. It's the Mishra's Workshop. Thank you very much. Ding, ding, ding. All right. I think I want to look at the Urza's work. I was really disappointing when I found, like, I was stoked. This is why I was really disappointed in the Brothers War because I knew there was going to be a Urza's workshop. But I was like, this is going to be so good. Urza's workshop is going to be great. But look at Urza's workshop. It's got Metalcraft. So you have to have 3 or more artifacts to activate it. It's a land. It taps for a colorless. One single colorless. And then add a colorless for each Urza land you control. Like the Urza's Tower, Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant. So this is kind of goes in Tron, right? This only turns on and turns up and gets better if you have like Tron assembled, like Urza land. So it seems really slow. If you ask me which workshop is better, I'm going to say Mishra's workshop. Much better. They could have done a little bit more with this. I really wish they did. Urza kind of, you know, 20 bucks and bottoming down in price. Is there any decks playing it? Commander, Legacy, Mystic Forge combo. Okay, it is getting played in Legacy, but it's nowhere near the level of the workshop from Mishra's. Mishra's Factory, Mishra's land seemed to be a lot better than Urza's here. I mean, why not? Then we had another factory that made assembly workers, and I think that the assembly worker deck is going to be a thing in the future. This one here is the expensive one, the Winter Factory. That's what they call this one. Another amazing art by all my favorite artists, Phil Folia and Kyla Folio, the couple that teamed up together on this one. See, I'm just looking to see if we can find the summer edition. Yeah, here we go. So we got the fall edition, you got the summer edition, spring edition, and then a winter edition, and then the summer edition. Okay, we got fall, spring, winter, summer. Where does autumn fit in there? I don't know. But this is the one that's worth the most out of all the workshop or factories. It's the winter one with the snow and people like it. It was worth around 200 bucks a couple of years ago, and look at very hilly. You know why I like jokes about mountains? Because they're hilly area. Look at this, the wedgie price. Look at the wedge muffins on this one. What are we, 2018 to 2021, like a very compressing type of a chart, and then 2021 to 2024, so like a 3-year period. And like this is what we want to see here, folks. For buying any Magic cards, like you're not going to get a better discount than this, right? In and around here, these soft landings for these cards. Like if you're looking to finish a set of antiquities, this would be the time to do it. pick up one of these. When is the best time to bid on heritage auctions? The best time to bid on heritage auctions? Okay, I'll tell you. According to me, I used heritage auctions to buy a box of Modern Horizon or Eternal Masters. There's okay. Well, you guys want to see what's cooking on heritage auctions? What's cooking? Good looking. Let me just take a look here for you folks. Okay, so heritage auctions, to answer your question, Gaming Bob, when is the best time to bid on heritage auctions? So for me, from what I've seen is the best time is when there's an item at the front of the lot, at the very front of the lot. You the best time to bid on it, well, you can bid on it online before the actual auction goes live. Let's see this. Here's a box of Arabian Nights sealed. Here we go. Right now, this current starting bid is $25,000. Okay, this is up for bid, and this is actually the Heritage Auctions site, and this is actually the Heritage Auctions event of the year that all the big boys are going to be trying to get in on, because you see these items up at the top of the screen here. We've got not only we got boxes of starter brick of Revise. We got a booster brick of Revise. We've got this one here, which is the holy grail of Magic. This is the Arabian Nights sealed box, and then we've got the a beta starter deck and a couple of boxes of Legends, one English and one Italian. So you get this buyer's, like Brain is saying, the buyer's premium. They add money on top of it. So like I'll tell you, I've been hosed at heritage auctions on shipping. Okay, so for me, a couple of times, this is one thing you got to watch out for with heritage auctions. When you order something and they ship it to you right away, expect to get another invoice on top of that invoice, because it's happened to me a few times where I've won the bid and I'm like, "Yay, thank you. That's great. I got a little bit of a better deal than what's available on eBay or on online stores." And then a day or two later, I get another invoice, and some of them are quite expensive. Like I was like, it put a disgusting taste in my mouth where the shipping was like almost as much as the item that I bought. Expensive shipping. So for me up in Canada, I didn't like the customer interaction, and I even wrote an email to the customer fulfillment over at Heritage saying like, I don't have a very positive customer experience because I bought a $300 item and right now on a bigger item like this, like a box of Arabian Nights, nobody's going to care about the $200 shipping. So I got hosed on Heritage Auctions once on some small for a box of cards, because they're going to probably put insurance on it and everything else. And depending on how far it's going, you might pay through the nose for insurance. But if you're buying some more of these more expensive boxes, like the $200 shipping or whatever it is, isn't going to be a big deal. But if you buy some of the cheaper boxes, they hose you on shipping. So you really got to watch that and expect to get another invoice later. Like I tried it. I didn't go ham or nothing and buy a bunch of bids. I tried like buy a graded card, buy a single card, buy another graded card. Okay, let's buy a box of cards, which is amazing because I'm going to look back. I bought this box of Visions from Heritage Auctions. I got a box of Visions and I bought a box of Eternal Masters, and they charged me different rates for the shipping on both of them. The one was a couple of $100 to ship it, which just blew my mind. And the other one I think was only $30. So this is what's coming up on the block here at Heritage. The best time to buy, if you ask me, is look at the lots and see what is the. Let's look at the entire lot. Tracked lots. If you look at the entire lot, this is the lot 3600. What's at the front of this lot here? So the very front of this lot is this right here. We have a revised booster box. So the best time for me look at the item at the very front of the lot, and if that is an item that you're interested on, when the auction goes live, you only get a minute or two at live bidding. And I've seen this a couple of times. This auction will get a lot of attention because it's got the big stuff, and there'll be people waiting on deck to try and pick these cherries up. But the items at the very beginning of the auction, if the auction goes live and there's something good right at the front of the auction and people are sleeping on it, when they get the notifications on their phone or their email that the auction is going live, some of the first 2 or 3 items already get sold right away with maybe 1 or 2 bids on them because there's not that many people watching. And then as the auction progresses, then more people will come in. And that's when this one here is like 4th on the block. So lots of people are going to be waiting for this one. Do any predictions for this? What do you folks think this is going to sell at? There's a sealed box of Arabian Nights here on Heritage. Dual Brain and Ed and I discussed it. His number, I think, was probably going to sell for around, what did you say there, Ed? 200,000, maybe 250,000? Probably, yeah. That's anybody's guess, but I'm thinking this will probably sell for about 250,000. Probably worth about 500,000. So this would be a very, very holy grail of sealed Magic the Gathering. All right, we're talking moving, shaking. We're back on Phyrexian Tower. You know, this card was reprinted a lot of times. This one's from Urza's Saga. Now, there's no foil versions of this because this is the Urza block that didn't have any foil versions. $89 for the tower. There's cheaper versions of it, and I even got one in Ultimate Masters. I opened one. It's $38, and that's the cheapest one. Phyrexian Tower is played in Commander, where you need to sack dudes and make fast mana. So it's also played in the Nick Fit deck in Legacy, so it's a pretty decent land. You tap it and sacrifice a creature to add double black to your mana pool, or you can just tap it for colorless mana instead. What is pushing the tower up? The Tower of Power. Qu'est-ce que c'est? Look at this thing. Take a spike. Why is this card spiking? Is there a buyout on it? Look at the chart on this, guys. Guys. Look at this. All the way up to here. Right here. Get Brody's small pencil. Brody's got a thin pencil. So right here, this thing has taken a big tick up in price. This is no wonder this is on the movers and the shakers list. It hasn't been, this is an all-time high for this card. Never been so high. So high. How high that I can touch the sky. So sick. So sick that you can just one click. All right, what's playing it? Commander, we call Santander over. Dracula variant of Tower is cool. 300,000. You're saying calling 300,000? How do you know what items are at the front of the lot? It's simple. You just look at the lot, and the ones at the beginning are first. Easy. Like right at the top here. When you go all the way to the, so you can, right at the top here. See, this is the first item, second item, third item. This Arabian Night, this is the entire lot. And then if you want to scroll through the lot, you just go to the left-hand side. It won't go left anymore. So then you can just start like scrolling through the rest of the lot. I'm tracking this lot. MTG Bob. Yeah, you can go to jump to lot. You can see the lot. It's just at the front of the list. When you're looking at the lot, you just scroll through it and you can see like the one at the front. And then you should be able to like scroll through them and find other lots. Like here, people you viewed this also viewed this. You know, look at this Black Lotus. What lot is in this one? Okay, so this is in this lot here. And see, we just scroll through the lot, right? So the beginning of the lot, what do we have? If this is the same lot, 3601, where are we here? 3606. So different lot. This lot, 3601. It's got this in it. 3602. Yeah. So these are the items here. At the beginning, we get the Black Lotus, and then all these items that come after. They usually put some junky stuff like the poop soup at the back, right? As you scroll through the lot. At the very beginning, they put the high-end high dollar items right here. So at the beginning of this lot, we got the Lotus, Unlimited Lotus, and they got, what's this here? Euroakis. I don't know what that is. Underground Sea also finding its way on the list here this morning. Do you pre-bid like 5 or 6 days before the auction? You only bid on the auction day. Yes, there's pre-bidding is open for internet bidders, and then as it gets closer to the live date, a lot of the pre-bidding you can pre-bid online, but and if you're the winning bidder online and nobody bids on it, you get it. So items at the front of the auction block tend to get, if it's not a very busy auction, items at the front of the auction block that have online bids, sometimes they win. If you're watching closely, sometimes there's only like 2 or 3 people or a few people that are actually bidding on items at the beginning of the lot because they're waiting for something down the line. Why did you do it? That's a pretty interesting fact. Tommy says Euroakas, I think, is a Heroes of the Realm card, which were given only to WotC employees for working on specific projects every year. And I've seen up on the auction block over there at Heritage, I've seen playtest cards, like prototype cards, sold there plenty of times. What's going on in the sea? Do you know what the pirate's favorite letter is? You would think it'd be the R, but it'd really be the C. The Underground Sea. What version have we got here? The Reserve List Revised. This is the cheapest one of the bunch. Wouldn't it be nice to get some black border duels? Oh my goodness. That's insane. Insane to think, maybe. All right, look at the frequency here. Again, not a volatile card, not a card that you were going to see a lot of volatility with because it's a reserve list. Why do they call it the reserve list? Well, because you have to make a reservation to get them. No. Let's see. Stock chart of the day. This one actually looks quite similar to the volcanic island. Not a bad looking chart here. Very soft bottom right here. And then a poke up in price around Battle Bond ticking up. And then we've got like this wedge. And I think like 2025 is when we're going to see the next tick up in price. But because according to George Tritch's laws of period when to make money, George Tritch, according to his chart, we're going to see it. We're just coming off of 2023, which was a year of hard times. So we got another year. This year is going to be like halfway through this year, according to George Tritch's chart, is going to be like getting better and closer up to good times. And then we got a year of good times in and around 2025. So I think that's when we're probably going to see some reserve list card market action coming. Now, unfortunately, there's going to be some people forced out of the market by then. Who knows? Brody could be homeless by then and not be able to buy magic cards. But if you can hold on until 2025, if you're looking to unload anything at all, stocks, wares, goods, hardware, things that money can buy, good times. I sure could use that. Me too. This has been a rough 2-3 years. And this is why I love doing the show and I love talking to you folks because it's gotten me through a lot of times when things were dark and gloomy. And you guys have been there for me. And I want to say thank you and appreciate you because it means a lot. Connecting with some humans, some perfectly good human beings, some beautiful and amazing people to talk to and share my woes and qualms and discuss things that we love and join our heads together to try and get through one day at a time. Winter Orb. Here's an interesting card. You play this got played on me just the other day. This is devastating, and here's the way I want to play it in a stacks deck with Tabernacle of Penril Vale. Oh, this is gross. So like this is a 2-mana board wipe. I'm telling you, guys are like, what? That's not a 2-mana board wipe. Yes, it is. I saw an interaction the other day. If you're ever homeless, I got an extra room. Thank you, my friend. We're all waiting for 2025 for things to get a little bit better and a little bit more money to go around. We maybe have some changes in the fiscal markets where, we're not just printing so much darn money out of thin air. Why is this a 2-mana board wipe? Well, it says as long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than one land during their untapped steps. So this is played with Urza Lord High, the Beanstalk Control, Grand Arbiter Augustine, and Zozu le Punisher. The big Punisher, right? The Brodisher. Okay, let's look at the Tabernacle. All right, here's the thing. Here's why Winter Orb is, and this is another reason this card is so darn good. Okay, the Tabernacle at Penril Vale. All creatures have at the beginning of your upkeep destroy this creature unless you pay 1. You can also play Magus of the Tabernacle, but could you imagine if you can only untap 1 land during each of your turns? Then you're basically stuck paying for your dudes with rocks, like with your mana rocks and your artifacts. So this is another way, like if it can make this card just so much better. The Winter Orb, and I love the continuous artifact on the Unlimited Edition. Let's look at the price on this. 100 and what are we at for the Unlimitado? $160. Yep, $160. Not even at an all-time high. It's definitely trending down in price, and it's going to move this way for a little while longer. I think another little while before, and I think we saw like price action in a lot of these because people were like there was a lot of government money given out here. A lot of money was given out, spent on stuff. But now we're kind of like trending down. It's going to be a while before things tick up in price. I wish the things would just balance themselves out a little bit more. Willily Wolf? Here's a $46 card from the Arabian Nights block. Taking a tip. Now, shout out to my cousin Jimmy. If you're out there and if you're watching, tell him I said hi. There's also a static orb. Static orb? Oh, 2026, more like Brody. Every company needs to clean house or they will all shudder. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. We're going to see some different moves in the. You ever heard of a corporatocracy? You know, there's a monopoly. There's different all these kind of democracies. There's corporatocracy is sort of what we're seeing. Like we're moving into is where like certain companies own IP and own brands, and it's like the brands get eaten by the bigger fish, and it's like the quest for companies to own as much patent and control over things like food and design and anything that's copyrightable. Want to own all of that stuff. I want that wolf. I love wolf pictures like this, especially when they're shirts. This would be a decent shirt. Yes, I agree. I like it. This is a very sandy looking card. This Willily Wolf. You can tap it to give target creature +1/+1 until end of turn. It's a 1/1, and it's a green and 1 to cast it. There's 2 different iterations of this. Of course, if you take a look in the Arabian Nights block, look at the casting cost here. This one's got the light white looking 1 for the colorless mana, and a lot of times what version is this? This is the B version, and then there's the A version. I wonder if this one's more expensive. The A version is $11, and then the B version is $50. So you just be careful when you're buying this. Don't get had. That's something to check. Make sure you're buying the right one. And look at look at the mana symbol here because it seems like one is worth quite a bit more than the other. Willuli Wolf. Let's look at the chart on him. Her. Wolfie boy. Yeah, okay. What are we looking for here today? We're looking for a double bottom. Any double bottoms in our future? Maybe here. This looks like a W. Is this a W? Could be. Could be close. Right around here. I'll have to zoom in on it. Maybe not quite a double bottom, but well, they're just place some bids. Will fire and forget and see if I win anything. That's what I do. I was looking for some graded cards to see. Wolfie's fine, honey. Where are you? Terminator 2. John Connor. Sarah Connor. That's where that's from. Wolfie's fine, honey. I love the quotes. And Taiga uppercut. There's different ways to say it, and some people get quite upset when mispronunciations are made. And this is Taiga, Taija. I don't really, however you say it, and how it's not how you say it, it's how you play it. And sometimes the mispronunciations are the funnest thing about Magic the Gathering. I tell you what, the step parents are dead. don't, Bob, don't bid on a weird sheet. I got Kylan to bid on that. You guys are awesome. And the Tiger Uppercut here. It's Sagat from Street Fighter 2. Tiger Uppercuts. Oh, this is the Gruul land. This is a good one. You know, when I was getting back into buying Magic cards, like seriously, I was picking these up for $75. And I should have picked up like as many of them as I could, but I thought, $300 for a playset of this was enough. Now, what are we at? We're at a whopping $359. And the Taga is a decent card, especially in Gruul. Playing it in Temur Cascade, Epic Storm, Beanstalk Control, and lands. Of course, the lands always need green mana, but the card that really helped the lands deck the most, as far as I know, is the Yavimaya, the one that makes everything a forest. The Lightning Dragon sheet. Are you guys sniping over there? I've already heard way too many mispronounced Visage on the new card in Murders of Carla Mana. Visage? Another one that I keep hearing on the audiobooks is what is it? Oh, it's a really good mispronunciation. Asha, Visage. What is that mispronunciation? Shul and school? Yeah. Either way, it's a jungle out there. Definitely. So these are your movers and the shakers for Thursday, February. January's gone. Yeah, right. Movers and the shakers for February 1st. First on race day, first of the month. I like it. It's nice of you folks to join me here. Let's just whip that trick and let's get on to the day here where we can do something. Why does a knight always like to carry a pencil and paper? So he can draw his sword. That is a fact. And why did the ancient pharaoh go to jail? He wouldn't stop running pyramid schemes. That's right, folks. It's nice to see you here this morning on the show. We're wrecking house. We're wrecking the background. It's okay. We'll clean that up later. Appreciate each and every one of you folks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And wherever you are in the world, just remember, you're a beautiful and amazing person. You're special, and there's something about you that has value. So shine that light on the world. Smile. Try to make the world a better place. I'm off to work. The working man doing the best that he can to try and move things along, and you can too. We pulled together, big group hug here this morning. Thank you all so much for joining me on the morning show. This is the Brody Alfonso. We got my best friend Ron Burgundy is going to outro us with a little bit of Yaz flute. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy your day. And thanks for making time for me. We'll see you on the next one. Why do the Egyptians go to the doctor? When they have sarcophagus.